Hey, welcome to another episode of the Not Scrum Done podcast. Today we are doing Q&A. So if you have a question, you could post it in the comment section and we'll turn it into a video. We'll also answer it directly as well. I'm professional Scrum trainer at scrum.org, Adriana Marshall, and that is
Grad Scrum Master Scott.
today we got a great question from James, who apparently is working on a product roadmap session over the next coming days. More than likely, he's already had it. So, James, if you're watching, tell us how it went. But here's a video for you. So, the questions are: how do we best translate business objectives and outcomes into a complete and endorsed product backlog ready to be incorporated into a sprint? And what are some useful techniques or facilitation techniques for defining and committing to the product goal? So I think we should start off with talking a little bit about the product goal first, because your product backlog will hopefully emerge to fulfill your product goal. So it makes sense to start with that. All right, Scott, you want to kick us off by talking about some techniques for defining and committing to the product goal?
First of all, Andriana, great question. But let's first of all define what the product goal is according to the Scrum Guide. The product goal is a North Star that helps the team answer the basic question of why are we doing this project in the first place? Now, this is new in the updated version of the Scrum Guide. Product goal hasn't always been there. The sprint goal has been there for quite some time, but the product goal is new. And it's a way that we're trying to help teams really just create and answer that question of why are we doing this project in the first place? Audrana, you have some different ideas in terms of how can we create a product goal? What are you using in your environment? How do you approach this?
Yeah, one of the ways is to create a product goal canvas. So this canvas should include your product vision, the problem that you're working to solve, the target market, the key benefits, and success metrics. And that will help you identify that. And one of the key points I do want to call out is the product owner is responsible for this. The definition of it should be led by the product owner, obviously, with some help and giving some ideas. Another way is doing an actual product goal workshop. So, to conduct workshops with the developers, product owner, and stakeholders to collaborate to actually help define. So they'll be there to brainstorm ideas, discuss different options, and converge on a shared understanding of the desired outcome. I believe that our product goal should have some value to the user. So we should have a customer user mindset and understanding what are we trying to create that benefits them. Anything else, Scott?
Yeah, those are all great points. What I would add, and what I use, James, as a framework is to really think about four things in terms of defining your product goal. One, is it strategic? Number two, is it focused? Number three, is it empirical? Meaning that we don't know everything up front. Is it expansive that maybe we can adjust it along the road as we learn more things, especially if it's something that we haven't done before? And then the fourth thing I'm thinking about, can we define some type of measurable outcome so that when we get to the end of the product goal road, can we measure that? How will we know when we get there? So recapping those four things again, is it strategic? Is it focused? Is it empirical? And can we define some type of measurable outcome for that? Would be what I would add, Andriana.
Yeah, and that all comes from evidence-based management. That's a course that both of us teach where we help you craft product goal, sprint goal, focus on metrics. What are the type of metrics that you should be focused on? So feel free to come join us at one of our classes and learn a little bit more. And the second question is, how do we best translate business objectives and outcomes into a complete and endorsed product backlog ready to be incorporated into a sprint? So the first thing that I do want to call out is our product backlog is never really complete. We're always evolving. We're always adding. It's a living artifact. I think there were like 5 things added today with my team, and who knows how many more the next coming days. There will always be additional product backlog items. It will evolve over time, but I think maybe this question might be focusing a little bit more on certain product backlog items, which I think we all do. At the top of the product backlog, we'd like to have be well understood, to be refined. That's something that we all strive for. So I don't want you to think you don't have a complete backlog. You may be failing because you're not. And as good as we think we are, we know that we can't get there. All right. Scott, do you want to kick us off with some ideas for this one?
I want to add another half sense to what you said, Andriana. And I'm thinking about the product backlog is never complete. I'm thinking about we have some Apple products here. I have the iPods in my ear. I have an iPhone. I have a MacBook. So, James, you can actually look at those as three different product backlogs if you're at Apple. They got a product backlog for the pods, got a product backlog for the iPhone, product backlog for the MacBook. And think about it. They're always changing. They're always finding something that we're getting from feedback from the customers that we can make it better. So to your point, other videos we've talked about, hey, sprint review is important for us to get that feedback and so that we know how to do the right thing. And that's what go to that empirical step of defining your product goal. Make sure you have that flexibility that you can incorporate the customer's feedback. Now, in terms of ways to get to that point, there's several complementary practices out there. One of them I like to use is story mapping. It's just an easy way. You thinking about if you're thinking about an overall objective, you're thinking about a feature. It could be an epic. It can be a story. So just keeping it simple. A feature would be something like, hey, time wise, that may take maybe a month, 2 to 3 months, maybe. An epic may take a month. This is different for every environment. So you're going to have to sit down with your team and define, okay, what roughly, how long would a feature take? But that's typically something that you cannot complete in a sprint. Thinking about a maximum time box for a sprint is 1 month. You definitely can't complete a feature in a 1 month time box if we're using story mapping. Then you have an epic that probably can't be completed within a sprint if we're using that format. And then you want to have something called backlog refinement, which I will let Andriana go a little bit deeper into that. And then we want to get the features down to epic level. And then we want to get it from epic level to story level. And story level pretty much is a way, okay, hey, we believe as a team that these items are ready. And we think, based upon those three levels of conversations of granularly breaking these down, that we believe that we can complete these in a sprint. And we've never even worked on it yet. Andriana, what would you like to add?
Yeah, I will add to connecting these to the business objective. If your product goal is aligned, it should be significantly easier at this point to understand what you need to do to achieve that product goal, or at least be able to have those conversations. I don't know if I've ever been in an environment where every single person agrees on every single product backlog item or decision made. Sometimes we disagree and commit and we march towards this goal because it's not always going to be a perfect environment where we have 100% alignment. There are certain things that are pretty obvious that you need to do on some of the more controversial things. On the things that are a bit more controversial, that's why you have a product owner. They are there to help make the final decision based on their research and based on hearing out the input from stakeholders. So, refinement, this is where we're taking, you basically described it already. We're taking these big chunks of work and we're making it into smaller, what we call ready. And every ready is going to be different depending on the type of environment you're in. For us, maybe it's having some level of design or even mock-ups. We do need to understand where it is in the app or where it is on the website that we're actually building this feature. We do need to have some level of acceptance criteria defined so that we can get started. Ultimately, we want to have a description, we want to have it ordered, and we want to have it sized. Those are the things that we want to make sure that we have before we get started. And like I said, the specific additional details that's going to really apply to your team.
Yeah, I like that. It was all good stuff. And James, I'm thinking about some different techniques that we can give you in regards of Andriana identified order the product backlog, and you can use an optional event, which is in Scrum. You can find that up under the product backlog artifact in the Scrum guide. It's only 2 sentences. I'll give you enough. Now I'm thinking about some techniques to get you started because again, it sounds like you just started this. Hopefully everything went well. One of the first techniques I used was called the Moscow technique, MOSCOW. Now, this is just a way to help you can introduce to your product owner in terms of ordering the product backlog. Okay, there's several techniques out there. This is just one. So, this is just one I started with. So, Moscow is an acronym for must have, should have, could have, won't have. So, it's just a way that, okay, as we facilitating, because you did ask for some facilitating techniques. So as we facilitating this workshop, whatever it may be, Andriana gave some different things you can do, or it could be a product canvas. So it's still going to be we in a room collaborating with each other. So you want to use something lightweight. If this is their first time, you bringing them from agile methodology or some other methodology over here. This is a nice, soft technique that you don't have to waste a whole lot of time explaining the technique, and you can get into. We're really just trying to get the most important thing to be on the top, and we're going to use Moscow to help us do that. And if that works for you and help you out, again, don't be afraid to use empiricism. If that works for your team, great. Try something else. The goal is just to have an order product backlog. Andriana.
Yeah. There's another one very similar where it's must be attractive, one dimensional, indifferent, and reverse. So must be, these are expected by our customers. Attractive, these make users happy. One dimensional, these features that make users happy when they're unhappy when they're not. And then indifferent, it's like they really don't have an impact on satisfaction levels. And then reverse is they'll actually make the users unhappy, which one of the ways that you can do that is really by getting data from your stakeholders who hopefully you have some users and customers that you regularly connect with to get an understanding of what they're looking for that will help you. But that's just a couple different techniques that you can use. Actually, as we're talking, I'm thinking of another one where I worked at a company where they literally did buy a feature. So that's a game that you can play to order your product backlog, to understand what's really valuable, to get people behind it. Because if you're worried about consensus, that might actually be a good one because we're like, okay, you have X amount of money. What are you actually going to buy? And you could price the features based on the level of effort they may take. And then you can have people buy them. And then you can really see like what are people or stakeholders valuing. All right,
No,
James, you'll
that's
let us know if we gave you some great ideas and if this was helpful. If you like this video, please like it. Actually, hit the like button and leave us a comment. If you made it to the end of this video, you have an attention span greater than a goldfish. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, everyone. Be legendary.